Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Kevin's Hobby Time. So this is going to be my next project, which I'm getting back into the remote control car world. Back in the 80s when I was a kid, I actually got the Tamiya Grasshopper when it first came out for my birthday, which was awesome. Had a lot of fun with it and everything. And then, of course, after I grew up and moved around a bunch after meal time, etc., never really quite got back into it. So now that I have time, I'm like, hey, I want to get back into it again. And I found doing after a bunch of research online, watching a bunch of YouTube videos, I saw the Tamiya BBX 1/10 scale RC high performance off-road racer based on the BB01 chassis. So this is going to be my next project, and I'm going to go over, do an unboxing here in a minute. And I also have a whole bunch of options. I bought a bunch of hop-up option parts, stuff like that. I'll go over the individual pieces as I go through the build with the radio that I chose, the receivers, the servo, things like that. I also picked up some tools to be able to work on the car and everything. So since this is Kevin's hobby time and not just model building time, I'm venturing out into another project, which is just going to be the remote control hobby, which I love. Anyway, stand by. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and unbox this thing because it's really cool. So here we go, just in case you haven't seen it before. I've taken the cellophane off of it, but that's really about it. I had to pull out the decals earlier, so as you can see, it comes in bags, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty much the major frame unit there. Some of your two sides. Some of the bracket frame pieces. Recognize some of the parts just from watching other build videos already. Trailing arms. And you see how it's got the little label right there. Instructions are really nice, especially Tamiya instructions. There's your figure. Oh yeah, those are the trailing, I just forgot the name of them. Light pods. There's the chrome wheels, which I'm going to be dechroming these or painting over them because I'm not a fan of the chrome wheels on them. I've got another idea. Plus I'm going to be using some aftermarket wheels that I'm going to test with it. Sorry about the glare. Oh yeah. Duplicate of these. I do have some other parts. I have some hop-up parts and upgrade parts that I'm going to be using. I'm not going to use the plastic. I've got the metal version of that, but I'm going to have to figure out that front bar. There's the main body plate, as I'll call it, or the chassis plate, chassis base. There we go. Oh yeah, shocks. There's the main shocks that they're going to build. I'm actually going to be trying out some aftermarket shocks because I'm going for a more vintage look. Bag D, parts bag. Oh yeah, servo saver. That's more parts for the shocks, the kit shocks. Bag B. Here's the anti-wear grease. I'm sorry, that's their blue thread lock. Yep. There's a couple of tools. Nice. I did buy some tools to help put this together. Right tools for the job. Bag E. Bag C. And one thing I did is on these bearings, I went ahead and bought the sealed bearing kit because you want to have sealed bearings to keep the dust and sand out. The sandy beach that I'm on has like powder fine sand. That's for the shocks. So I want to try to keep as much of that sand out of the parts as I can. So that's why I'm going to be using sealed bearings. Well, that's for the engine mount there. That's for the battery box. Yeah, that's for the part of the differential. Yeah, A, parts bag A. So I love how they did that. Oh yeah. That goes over the ESC. That's a motor cover. Yep. That's that rear bumper piece. Tire foams. Punch that center out for the front and the rears. Oh, the tires. These are the Tamiya Rough Rider ones, so as you can see you got both front and rear. I will set these up most likely, but I also have, like I said, some aftermarket ones I'll show you as we're going. All the body parts, body panels. You got to cut them out, but the instructions pretty clear on it. Okay, that's the netting for the windows, the sides. Well, not windows, the side. Well, yeah, side windows. Decals come in their pack. Tamiya decals are a little different, so you cut them out and then you peel off like a top layer. That goes on like the motor. You get a whole set of numbers so you can do your own custom numbers, which I'm going to do my own custom number according to the Score Racing set up by Mickey Thompson in the 70s, I think it was mid 70s. Here's the full kit if you want to do the kit. I pulled this out originally so that I could get the rough size of it. This is, don't remember what the width is, but it's a little over 11, you know, 8.5 by 11 size sheet, so it's a little over 11 tall. But basically I did it so I did my own custom decals. When we get to that part, I'll show you the decals that I'm going to look at using, because I love doing custom decals. To me, you can tell they didn't get, a lot of these are fake companies, so, and I don't like, to me, it looks neat the way they did it, but I'm not worried about putting BB01 and BBX and Tamiya stuff all over. Tamiya wants to pay me money to put their logo on it, that's fine. Pay me advertising money or whatever, but I'm not going to put their logos all over everything just because. I like the Tamiya Double Star, but I'm not that big a thing of it. It's not that big a deal for me. I want a more vintage, kind of late 70s, early 80s Baja Bug kind of look that I'm going to be going with. And I'm going to use a different netting material. I don't like this plasticky looking stuff. I've got a couple of different ideas. So basically I'm doing a custom build. That's the plan. I've got hop-up parts and some other parts. This is just the general, you know, don't cut yourself type stuff. There's the English. There we go. you know, like when assembling a kit, tools including knives are used, extra care should be taken, etc., etc. So it's just their standard safety, you know, hey, be safe when you're doing this stuff. It's not necessary for the build. That's so that you can actually cut out that screen or whatever screen material, which is nice. They give you a pattern that you can use, which is really cool. I like that a lot. And then of course the instruction sheet, which is really nice. So got their standard safety thing there in the middle, and then they got, you know, all the different recommendations. It actually tells you, like, you know, what parts you're going to need. Your steering servo controller, your motor controller, your joystick, your radio control, two kinds, motor, battery. Tells you what type of recommendations for motors. If you're going to use their paint scheme, it tells you the kind of paints they're going to use. I'm going to do my own custom paint scheme. Goes over some recommended tools that you'll need for the build. That'll make it a lot easier. A couple of things you have to build. That talks about the smaller steering servo that you need for the front of the unit. It needs a low profile servo. I did a bunch of research before I did it to make sure I had the right parts, and then it shows you kind of, hey, this is how you can put and link everything together. Your controls will tell you. I'll go over that when we get to those parts. So, and then here's just some of the look at the instructions. So start with A. You got A1, and there's like talk about charging battery packs and all that. So and then they start building with the differential. Now I'm going to build the ball differential, and I already went ahead and bought the slipper clutch pack, so I can put the slipper clutch on it because I'm using a 5700 kilovolt motor. Or whatever you want to call it, so that it's going to be a little bit more powerful. So I want to have the slipper clutch fortune. Anyway, shows you what you're going to need for each section. Shows you all the assembly and everything. So love how it gives you your recommendations and everything. Parts you need, little instruction pieces. Like I bought metal parts for this instead of the plastic. Some of these plastic parts I didn't like, so I bought metal replacement parts, and then I'll eventually be upgrading a lot of them. I bought special turnbuckles for those. You can replace these parts with metal parts, which I'm probably going to end up replacing in the long run. You can kind of go all out how you want to customize it as far as upgrading parts. Hopefully I can see that. Hopefully it's actually focusing. Sorry if it wasn't. Shows you where you're going to put your ESC and how to put it in. They have a mounting tab there if you're using like the Tamiya style, but otherwise you can try to fit what you have or come up with a different location. Kind of how to attach it to the motor and everything. There's your pin that goes through the body. There's your antenna. Doing the figure, putting the cap over the ESC if you can fit it. Shows you snapping the ball joints in. How to build out shocks, if you're going to do the stock shocks. How to assemble the tires. I recommend gluing the tires, especially if you have a higher power motor. You may not need them. So there's recommendations like on this as far as like how you put your spacers in there to make sure to keep that from sliding out, to keep it from the axle from sliding off during its travel. Sorry guys, it's been a long time since I've done this, so I'm not getting all the verbiage perfect. They have a little tray area that goes underneath the driver. It lifts up that you can put the battery in, so which is pretty cool. And it shows you cutting out the body. And I'm actually going to be doing some modifications to that because I have a different look for the body that I want to do based off of this. Where to put the stickers if you're doing everything stock. How to attach them on there. They recommend like you drilling out or boring out the holes like 1 millimeter or so to 2 millimeters or so. Where to put the hook and loop. How to cut out the light pods. I'm going to do a custom light kit for this. Changing out that roof panel and putting a metal roof panel on, which I'll have to make sure that the antenna. Here's the optional mounting your rear tire on the back if you want to. Here's option parts and like different ways. This is if you buy that bigger aeration stock kit. It shows you how to build them. Talks about setting it up. You've got your gear ratios. It has a gear ratio chart and everything. How to change the caster in the front by using putting that spacer. I have a different shock tower, but you should still be able to use those. How to do toe in or toe out on the front driving. How to adjust your camber angle on the rears by using spacers, which you have to provide. And then here's like a chart. Once you get it all set up, you can write down all the things that you've done and how you've set it up, which you can make multiple copies of this if you have different settings you want to do. Just some basic guidelines on how to run it, some troubleshooting if you're having issues. And then it has a complete parts list of everything. Literally all the parts. And they're to scale, if I remember right, so you can actually find it. I can take that yellow out. And reorder parts if you need to. Okay. So that was the opening of the kit, guys. So next thing is I'm going to show you some of the hop-up option parts, and then I'm going to look at getting everything set up for starting the build. So thanks and stand by.